All right, here we are tonight with Britney Carrington. Britney, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you, Rob?
Doing great. Listen, I want to get caught up with you. There's a million things going on in your life when it comes to wrestling. There always is. It's super exciting to get in touch with you. And you actually reached out to me and said, you know what? You have a bunch you want to talk about. Get the word out for some of these events that are going on with beach wrestling, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so beach wrestling in Ohio. The last time we talked, we alluded to the fact that it's not the biggest thing that's ever hit the state, and you're now the director for the state of Ohio, and
Yep.
you're really bringing a big emphasis on getting beach wrestling on the map in Ohio and actually through the world. So get us caught up on what you've been working on when it comes to beach wrestling since the last time we talked.
Okay. So much has happened, like you said, so I don't know if this is going to be redundant or not, but last winter we did a training series in Loveland, Ohio, and that was a huge success. I had an average on like 15 kids participate in that. And I knew in the spring that I wanted to create an event tied in with the beach wrestling tour across America. And that was something new this year that USA Wrestling was doing. So just kind of had to work on nailing down those dates with all the other states that were doing it. And then also they had beach wrestling at Fargo for the first time this year too. So just a lot of momentum on the national front. And I really wanted Ohio to be involved with that. So we nailed down the August 14th date at the same facility that we did our winter training series. And it should be a great success. I've got my boss at USA Wrestling, Ed Duncan, is flying in, so he will be here. I have officials from National coming in to officiate, local USA Wrestling officials, just a lot of hands on deck. A lot of my buddies down in Kentucky that already ran Beach Wrestling Open are going to be coming up to help me out with my event. And yeah, it's going to be a great time. The facility is top notch. They have a bar, a little restaurant, showers, the whole works. It is an indoor-outdoor beach volleyball facility, so we won't actually be on a beach, but we'll be in the sand. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's gonna be a great time. I'm not sure if there's ever been an official USA Wrestling beach tournament hosted in Ohio, so this might be the very first one. And then huge thank you to our sponsors, Vantage Wrestling, and then Carroll Athletic Club, who is kind of like our boosters program at Carroll High School. Vantage is just always taking care of me throughout the years, and I'm really happy to be working with them on this beachfront for this endeavor.
All right, so let's get into a little bit more of the specifics of the event. So it's Sunday the 14th, right? So it's right around the corner.
Yep.
Starts at 10 a.m. for the weigh-ins, right? So do you have is the field set? Are you taking more people?
Yeah.
If somebody's interested, then how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can still register on Track Wrestling, and then you can register all the way up until the day of. We're taking walk-up registration, so you do not have to pre-register. It just saves you a little bit of money. I think $10 or $15, something like that. But yeah, walk-up registrations day of. Come wrestle.
Come wrestle. The wrestling starts at 11. Make sure you're weighed in by 10.
Yep.
And then there's going to be a gathering afterwards, right?
Yeah. We're going to do a short little after party at a brewery there in Loveland. And that's another perk of beach wrestling is we always tend to include an after party. So
I don't think you're going to have any shortage of participants in that, especially in the summertime, right? We're so used to being stuck indoors in the winter in this sport. So it's great to get out.
Yep, exactly.
All right. So let's back up a little bit and talk to people that might be like beach wrestling. Yeah, maybe I'll give it a shot. If somebody wants to actually do this, why the push from USA Wrestling? Why beach wrestling? Why was it at Fargo this year? What's the push here?
Well, the really big push is coming straight from the top from UWW. So we have USA Wrestling, and then the governing body that oversees kind of like what our goals and visions are for USA Wrestling is UWW. And last summer they released their 5-year plan, and in their 5-year plan they really detailed that they want beach wrestling to grow through associated sports, and that's who I work with. And part of that falls on the leadership of the state leaders and the people willing to step up and work with associated styles. And So what that is going to look like, you're going to see a bigger push with this beach wrestling tour across America. We're definitely sticking with Fargo. And then all of those Tour Across America stops are going to be a points building system to develop our world level team. Right now, we're still building those points, but it was kind of hard to navigate through this first year of the deadlines and stuff like that, because some of our tour stops are still going on, but we already met the deadline for the world event. So we still have to kind of nail down some of those details, but eventually the Tour Across America will be a point scoring system for our world level events. And we need that in place because in 2028, we're hoping that beach wrestling becomes an Olympic sport, and we have to have developmental process in order to bring the best world team to Beach Olympics. So that's kind of the short and long of it. Is UWW is pushing for beach wrestling, which means we have to, or all the other countries in the world are going to grow and we won't. And just like everything else, we want to be the best. You know what I mean? We want to bring the best athletes and the best wrestlers, and we want to start getting some of these like collegiate and senior level athletes switched over to the beach stuff and winning UWW world medals. So that's really my personal goal, is try to get some of these collegiate girls that I coach involved at the senior world level.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about wrestling not having an off season, right? That's more of there is no off season, because we want to try to get our wrestlers to train year round. But this truly makes it a year round sport. Fargo just ended, so we had our freestyle and our Greco, and then we're right before we get into folk style season. And so this event on Sunday, and then the next two events that we'll talk about here shortly, really sandwich in and get that wrestler to stay, quote, on the mat. In this case, it's the sand, but yeah, to really keep honing in their abilities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it's probably the most relaxed style. So there are moments where it does feel like a break, even for me. Like the stress involved with beach wrestling is way smaller than the gym styles.
Yeah. All right. So before we move on to the next event that we need to highlight, let's talk about rules. So you said relaxed, and you're on a beach and you're in the sun, and it's awesome. It's definitely a relaxed atmosphere. But what are the rules like? Is it harder? Is it easier? What's your high level take on somebody that's going to cross over and maybe you want to do the event on Sunday?
Honestly, I think it's really, really easy and simple. If you can grasp easy, like I think folk style is super confusing for a new person, you know? So if you already have a grasp of folk style or even freestyle, this will be a breeze. It's a 1 3-minute round. There's not multiple rounds, so only one round. It's 3 minutes long. Push out point is 1 point. A belly down takedown is 1 point, and a feet to back takedown is 3 points. So there's only a couple of ways to score. Every time you score, you get reset to neutral. So you're not getting rode out in the sand. Your face is not like getting smeared in the sand for multiple seconds. And then if you're ahead by 3, you win. So the first person to 3 points wins. It's pretty easy. There are no stalling calls. So sometimes you see more stalling in beach wrestling than you normally would in other styles, but it's really, really fan friendly. Takedowns and push outs are going to be what you see the most, you know, just people trying to like bully each other in the tie and wait for a big move.
Yeah. So you get those big moves. I can understand kind of where stalling would come in, because it's more tactical, right? If it ends at 3, you better pick your battles and you better be ready for that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen it. I've seen 3 push out points win a match, you know? So yeah, there's quite a bit of bullying in the tie and just waiting for those big moves, for sure.
All right, let's talk about the delegation that you have that's interested in going to the world. Now, is there a qualifying event, or how does that work in order to get to it's Romania, right?
Yes, it is. We're going to the Black Sea, Constanta, Romania, and we'll be wrestling on Mamaia Beach. Beautiful, beautiful area of Romania. We're super, super pumped. And USA Wrestling hosts a national tournament in May this year they hosted it in Wilmington, North Carolina. Last year it was in Jacksonville, Florida. And we try to base our qualifications off of that. However, there are a lot of times where we don't fill weight classes, and we'll look for those high-level athletes to fill those weight classes. So we do have some girls going on this Romania trip that have not wrestled at the national or international level with beach wrestling, but I'm very, very confident in their abilities. We have a Fargo champ from last year from New York that's going to be going with us. So, if you can wrestle in the sand. They just have to work on their footwork and understanding how delicate the sand can be.
Okay, so you have how many from Ohio are going to be participating?
We have 3 girls from Ohio this year participating in the UWW Beach World event, and that is pretty awesome. I always try to take a few girls from Ohio. Last year we had 2 girls from Ohio, so increasing the number by 1 this year. And I've got just some heavy hitters. I've got Josie Davis. We all know she's a 3-time state champ. Carmela Castaneda, who will be up on the top of that podium again this March at the Schottenstein Center. And then I've also got Sierra Reiner. She's kind of an adopted Ohio girl. She lives right on the border of Ohio, West Virginia, and she just placed at Fargo. So I'm super pumped to have all 3 of those girls in Romania, and I'm very, very confident that they're all going to bring home a medal. They all have really, really strong individual styles of wrestling, and they're just confident in their wrestling at this point in high school, so I'm really excited to see how they do. We also have Mia Macaluso. She's not from Ohio, she's from New York, but pretty much everyone in the wrestling world knows her name, and I'm confident that she's going to bring home a world medal in the U20 and hopefully senior division as well.
Anybody that listens to my interviews or watches any of the things that we try to put out at Ohio Mat Media, we're always talking about opportunity, and especially when I get to talk to you, like women's wrestling, girls wrestling, now beach wrestling. And these girls, you mentioned very heavy hitters. Josie, 3-timer, and I mean, it's going to be tough to beat her this year, right? I mean,
for sure.
Tell me though about the opportunity to travel the world, for mom and dad to let their little girl go to Romania of all places. What is it like? And set the stage for that girl that's out there that's like, oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to be honest with you, Rob, there are so many girls that want to wrestle on the UWW world level. And unfortunately, when you're looking at however many weight classes are at the cadet and junior level, only so many girls. And there are girls like Josie Davis and Lily Luff that are just like barely missing those top 2-3 spots, or maybe even the podium sometime, where they lost in the blood round and at Fargo, and they had 100+ girls in their bracket. You know what I mean? Like, there are some insanely tough girls that still need these opportunities, and they still deserve these opportunities, because honestly, like, we learn more about life and our life skills going on these trips than we learn about wrestling. Like, these trips are changing lives, and it's not always about the wrestling. It's going and experiencing a new culture that you never would have otherwise, learning how to deal with foreign currency in a foreign country, and how to navigate exchange rates and just different things like that. Like, I never learned that until I started coaching wrestling internationally. And if these girls can learn that, maybe that would pique an idea of, what type of degree they want in college. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much more opportunity attached to these trips outside of wrestling. And that's what I love about it. I love that the Josie Davis finally gets to go wrestle on the world level, because I've been watching that kid wrestle since she was a baby, and she's deserved that for years and just been working her tail end off for years. And, that's the kid that deserves these trips, are the Josie Davis and the Lily Luft and the Zoe Hussar. You know what I mean? Like, those are the special kids that deserve this opportunity. And, it's just special. And then you get to add wrestling into it. Like, I couldn't ask for anything better. And when all this really first started for me, I really wanted to be where I wanted to be. And obviously, you know, we all want our own path, but when I realized that it could be on a beach and different beaches all across the world, I'm like, sign me up. I have to tell these kids about this. Like, these parents need to know that these opportunities exist. It's just a wonderful, wonderful part of our sport. And honestly, for me, it's probably the most beautiful part of our sport, because I get to end my day at these competitions looking out over the Black Sea, you know, or the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean. And so many days we're exhausted and we have headaches from the lights, you know, and I don't ever get to deal with that. So it's just a really beautiful part of our sport that I'm hoping, because of people like me and Ed Duncan and Rusty Davidson, that we can get this word out even more and just continue to grow it and create these opportunities.
You paint a really exciting picture. And if I'm a parent, I'm thinking, sign my kid up, sign me up. I want to go right to the beach. Talk about finances. What kind of financial hurdle are these girls going to have to overcome in order to start to think about trips like this?
Absolutely. I think we've touched on this before with other podcasts. It obviously is self-funded right now at this stage with USA Wrestling. I did recently hear that I think in the very near future, we're going to start getting funding. I don't know what exactly that looks like, but I've been hearing talks of it. So as of right now, we have to self-fund and fundraise on our own. But just like with everything else in wrestling, there are so many people willing to donate and help out, like your local booster club. And just on Facebook, I had a late commit to the Romania trip, and within 2 or 3 days, we fundraised $700 to cover her team fees. And that was just me helping the parents, you know. Obviously I have a pretty large networking circle, but everybody's always willing to help out with the fundraising. Flights are usually around like $500 to $700 for an international flight. That's going to be, you know, the most expensive part of the trip. And then we have UWW licenses and fees and all that we have to pay for. So you're really looking about between like $1,000 and $1,500 to get your kid on one of these UWW trips. But honestly, if you would just cut out one big national tournament a year, you know, these families could make it happen. I don't even want to know how many national trips I've spent $1,500 on. So, you know, I know that everyone else is doing the same stuff that I was doing with my kids, and, you know, just budget and plan accordingly, and people like me will help them make it happen.
All right, let's talk about that third event, Barbados, which is the Caribbean. That's the one I'm really turned on to. Yeah, Romania on the beach. I don't know if I'm going to do Romania in the winter, but Barbados is where it's at, right? So that's October, right?
Yes, October 15th. USA Wrestling is hoping to send a decent delegation. Once again, it will be a self-funded trip, but I just looked at flights, and there are flights out of Chicago for around $400 or $500. Pretty affordable lodging and all of that down there. And yeah, I'm just trying to get a solid group of athletes to go represent USA and hopefully have an awesome time. It looks to be like it's on a beautiful beach, you know, in the Caribbean. So super, super excited about that. Barbados is trying really hard to grow their beach wrestling movement and send athletes to world events. And they've kind of scratched our back by sending athletes to our national tournament in Jacksonville. So we're just looking to do the same thing and really support their grassroots movement, because it could be promising for them. They're trying to host like Pan Am games and stuff like that down there. And if they see a big tournament happen, then I think UWW and Pan Am will be more than happy to host down in Barbados, which is obviously way closer than Europe. So that's the goal of Barbados.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always thought of, just being, you know, the folk style winter blues that we see. Who wants to travel to Russia? Who wants to travel? Now, granted, I like the history of it, but the winter time would be horrible. Now we have an opportunity to plant seeds and get the UWW to start looking this way and maybe doing some things out here this way. And it requires support.
Yeah, it totally does. And I don't know what the other national federations do as far as funding beach wrestling. So I don't know if they're in the same boat that we're in, but with it being self-funded, you would naturally cut out a large percentage of your wrestling population. You know, not everybody can handle the $1,500 to $2,000, or maybe they don't have the right people to connect with, to network, to fundraise. Sounds too intimidating, don't have passports, you know what I mean? There's a lot of reasons why people aren't jumping on board. But I think having a UWW event in the Caribbean would help greatly.
Yeah. All right. So those are the 3 events we definitely wanted to highlight tonight. You got a couple minutes left. I'd love to get caught up on what you were just doing at the coaches convention recently.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the second year you got to go, right?
Yep.
All right. So what kind of things are you learning down there?
So the program this year was pretty cool. Last year we only did the academy. The convention was online, I believe, still because of COVID. So this year I actually got to do the academy for 3 days and then the convention for another 3 days. And the academy is really geared towards collegiate coaching development, and it just encompasses everything from ethics. We talked a lot about ethics, which is a really hot and heavy topic when you're coaching young women. And then we just go over everything from how to build a program, how to fundraise thousands of dollars, you know, what that looks like, what we broke out into small groups and went over just strategic planning and things that we don't get on a regular basis in our hometowns. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That support and that networking. Like just breaking out into a small group, we're able to really like focus on one coach and what their issues are. And all 7 or 8 of us are able to contribute ideas to make this aspect of their program grow. So those are really cool moments that I just don't think we're getting anywhere else in the country as far as college coaches go. And then the convention was really cool because that encompassed coaching all aspects of wrestling, wrestlers in business, high school, men's wrestling, women's wrestling, NCAA D1 through D3, NAIA. I mean, they had everything at the convention as far as classes go. You could take a class on anything, even as far as like being a coach's spouse, you know, and what that looks like. So there was just a wealth of knowledge at the convention too. As you know, I'm linked up with our wrestlers in business chapter. So I attended a lot of those wrestlers in business classes, trying to really hone in on how to build our Central Ohio chapter. And just trying to write down as much as I can to take it home, you know, just kind of try to catalog it all and keep chipping away at the big goal. So
that's cool. It's exciting. It's nice to know somebody that's actually all in and diving in, not to take away from other coaches, but I know you've really taken it to the next level and you're willing to share those resources, right?
Yeah.
One of the ways I want to highlight it again, we've talked about it before, is the Facebook group.
Yep.
Wrestling Women 101.
Women's Wrestling Recruiting 101.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And that's grown, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah, it even grew at the convention. Like met multiple coaches that weren't in there and they were struggling to fill their rosters. I'm like, well, here's a free tool that you can use. You know what I mean? Post away, share your info, look for the recruits, look for the girls and all that. So I also think it's one of those things that maybe it's being used more than I even realize. You know what I mean? Because I've had some coaches reach out and be like, oh, I got this girl from your site. Well, I didn't even know that they had linked up or connected, but maybe she like posted her information and the coach just contacted her. So there's connections going on that I'm not even seeing through that group, which is kind of a cool thing to experience. Yeah. But yeah, just continuing to build all those networking, relationships that are going to help all the coaches has been really monumental for me. And I just learn a lot from all of them all the time.
Okay, so they can find that on Facebook. If someone wants to do the Sunday event, the 14th, if they want to try to throw their hat in the ring for any of the other events, the Barbados trip, how do they get in contact with you?
All of the Buckeye Beach Bash information is on the USA Wrestling website underneath Associated Styles and underneath events. So you can find it on there. You can find it on Track Wrestling if you don't want to go through USA Wrestling. And then as far as Barbados goes, you can find me on Facebook. My email, it's Britney, BRITNEYGSC@gmail.com. You can just shoot me an email. You know, my contact information is pretty easy to find. I'm all over all social media. So just find me on there and let's get a group to Barbados for sure.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. Well, thanks for the time. Thanks for catching up. I mean, this is like prime season for beach wrestling. So it's like we don't even have a chance to take any time off. Let's get this thing rolling. Did we miss anything? Is there anything else you want?
No, the only thing else I really wanted to say is definitely, like, if you're not from Ohio, definitely check out the beach wrestling tour across America. They're still going strong. It's going to be going all the way into the fall in California. So there have been, like, I think close to a dozen stops or something so far. And then just numerous beach wrestling tournaments all across the country that aren't even a part of that. Like I saw, there's going to be one in Columbus at the end of the month. There's going to be one in Indiana. They're just popping up everywhere. So if you're looking for a fun summer way to wrestle, this is definitely the ticket.
All right. Sounds good. I appreciate the time as always. And hang out here for a second. I'm going to push pause on this. And thank you for the time.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.